I was running my psychic hustle on a crowded street corner when I pissed off the crown prince of New York's real estate scene. He slapped a thick stack of hundreds against my face.
Give me a reading.
He sneered.
Get it right, and this is your tip. Get it wrong, and you can swallow it for your tip.
I frowned, my fingers twitching as I focused. This person, I said slowly, is facing a great calamity this year. The prince kicked my entire folding table over.
Calamity my ass. That's my great-grandfather. He's been dead for 50 years.
He grabbed me by the collar, ready to shove the cash down my throat, when his father came tearing out of nowhere and cracked him across the face.
They desecrated your great-grandfather's tomb, you moron. And you're out here screwing around on the street. Get your ass home now.
1. I was slouched in my folding chair, bored out of my skull, running my stall in the middle of a bustling street food market in the village. Across from me was the city's most hyped-up Korean barbecue joint, smoke and the smell of sizzling meat pouring out of its doors. Business was dead, so I pulled out my old tarot deck and did a reading for myself. The Tower. Major arcana. Catastrophic change. Sudden upheaval. The kind of card that meant your whole world was about to be set on fire. It was a 9 times out of 10, you're screwed kind of draw. I immediately stood up and started packing my stuff away. Why even bother? This was supposed to be a side gig, not a life-or-death situation. Time to go home and sleep it off. I was halfway done when a beautiful woman sat down across from me. It was a sweltering summer night, and she was wearing a slinky red dress that showed off a lot of flawless, pale skin. My packing slowed to a halt. A few other young people stood behind her, their clothes reeking of barbecue. They'd clearly just finished dinner. She narrowed her eyes, pointing a perfectly manicured finger at the hand-painted sign on my table. She read it aloud, syllable by syllable.
Clairvoyant eye sees all. Iron tongue speaks truth.
She smirked.
Wow, mister. You've got some serious nerve.
Behind her, a guy in head-to-toe hype beast gear, his hair bleached platinum blonde, shifted impatiently.
Let's go, I'm dead tired. I want to go home.
The woman twisted around and gave him a pouty look, her voice dropping to a syrupy, manipulative purr.
Carson, honey, I just want a quick reading. It'll only take a minute.
It was the kind of voice no man could easily refuse. Sure enough, the blonde guy's irritation melted away. He stuffed his hands in his pockets and leaned against a lamppost, waiting. 2. The woman winked at me and recited a birth date.
Here you go, psychic boy. Let's see what you make of this one. It's for someone very powerful.
I did a quick mental calculation based on the numbers. My eyes widened. Powerful is right. I muttered. This chart points to an early grave. No way this person lived past 18. The words were barely out of my mouth when a hand cracked across my face. The slap was so hard my vision swam with stars, my ears ringing. The blonde guy, Carson, had me by the shirt collar, his spit flying in my face.
You son of a bitch. You dare put a curse on me. You're the one who's gonna die young. You and your whole damn family.
The woman behind him burst into laughter, doubling over.
Oh, honey, you're just a fraud after all. Too bad you picked the wrong person to scam. The birth date I gave you? That was for our Carson.
She leaned in conspiratorially.
You just messed with the Thorn heir. You're on your own now.
Even on the fringes of society, you heard the name Carson Thorne, son of Richard Thorne, the city's richest real estate mogul. He was a notorious spoiled brat with a volcanic temper. Stories about his street racing and bar fights were regular tabloid fodder. A cold dread washed over me. I could only swallow my pride and backpedal. Mr. Thorne, my mistake. I'm sorry I read it wrong. I didn't know it was your chart. But something was nagging at me. Carson Thorne was 26, but the chart I just read was ironclad. That person should have been dead by 18 tops. Did the woman just make up a random date to mess with me? But judging by Carson's explosive reaction, it really was his. 3. Carson wasn't finished with me. He grabbed a fistful of my hair and squeezed my cheeks hard.
I hate con artists like you. Goddamn street rats.
He spat.
You're young. You could get a real job. but instead you're out here scamming people.
The irony was staggering. If I'd been born with a silver spoon, would I be sitting on a sweltering street corner at midnight? Was crashing sports cars and chasing models considered a real job? He saw the defiance in my eyes. A cruel smile spread across his face as he let me go and straightened up. He waved a hand, and one of his entourage jogged over to a gleaming sports car parked at the curb, returning with a thick brick of cash. I'd heard the rumors. The Thorne kid kept his car stocked with cash just so he could throw it at people who annoyed him. I never thought I'd be one of them. Carson peeled off the band and started slapping me with the stack of hundreds.
Don't say I never gave you a chance.
He said, his voice low and menacing.
Give me another reading. Get it right. This money is yours. Get it wrong. The money is still yours.
He paused for effect.
You just have to swallow it.
That had to be at least 20 grand. Eating that would land me in the emergency room. Carson's friends roared with laughter.
You're too soft on him, Carson. Yeah, that's more money than this bum will ever see in his life. He doesn't deserve to eat money. A guy who spews that much crap should be eating shit. Ha, new game. We'll pay him by the pound for every pound of shit he eats. Nah, he's a starving loser. He'd bankrupt Carson before he was full.
4. Carson chuckled, then turned back and scowled at them.
Jesus, you guys are disgusting.
He let go of me and casually recited another date of birth. I clutched my stinging cheek and backed away, putting some distance between us. The woman had already retreated, arms crossed, watching the show with a smug look on her face. Goddamn rich kids. Not a decent one in the bunch. My bad luck for running into them. I steadied my breathing and focused, running the new chart through my mind. This person, I announced, is facing a great calamity this year. Carson laughed. He kicked my table again, sending my tarot cards and incense scattering across the pavement. He cracked his knuckles, a predatory grin on his face as he advanced on me.
Perfect. Just perfect.
He snarled.
That was my great-grandfather. He died 50 years ago. How about you tell me what kind of great calamity a dead man can have? Guys.
He barked.
Get him.
His friends swarmed me, pinning me to the ground. Someone held my legs, another stomped on my hand. Carson crouched down, forcing my jaw open. He took $200 bills and started stuffing them into my mouth, a sadistic grin on his face.
You hustlers love money so much, right?
He taunted.
Don't say I never support small businesses. If you like it so much, eat up.
His grip was like iron. A sharp ring on his finger cut the corner of my mouth, and the taste of blood and ink filled my throat.
Damn, he's not swallowing.
One of his lackeys complained. Another one had a bright idea.
Carson, light it. Burn it to ash, it'll be easier to swallow.
Carson's eyes lit up. He nodded in approval.
You're a genius. We can pretend we're leaving an offering for my great-grandpa. Ha 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 ha.
Quick. Light him up.
I struggled with everything I had, but it was useless. As the flickering flame of a lighter got closer and closer to my face, a middle-aged man suddenly appeared out of the crowd. He strode forward and slapped Carson so hard that the Thorne heir stumbled and fell to the ground.
Laughing? What the hell are you laughing about?
The man roared.
They just dug up your great-grandfather's grave, and you're standing here laughing.
Carson, humiliated, scrambled to his feet, fury in his eyes, ready to fight back. But as soon as he saw who had hit him, the rage vanished like air from a popped balloon. He hung his head, clutching his cheek.
Dad, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be asleep?
So this was the man himself, the famous Richard Thorne. Richard's eyes blazed. He kicked his son hard in the shins.
I told you not to dye your hair that stupid color. You look like a damn ghost, bringing bad luck on this family. And now look, your great-grandfather's tomb has been desecrated. It's all your fault.
He kicked him again.
I told you to dye it. What, did I tell you to dye it white? Why not green, you moron?
Kick after kick. I stared dumbfounded. In public, Richard Thorne was always the image of a suave, sophisticated businessman. Right now, he looked like a raging bull. Carson and his friends didn't dare make a sound as he took the beating. Once Richard Thorne had vented his anger, he grabbed Carson by the collar and started to drag him away. I saw my chance and quickly started gathering my scattered belongings, ready to bolt. Suddenly, Carson looked up and pointed a shaking finger at me.
Dad,
He yelled.
I gave him great-grandpa's birthday, and that kid said he'd have a great calamity this year. The tomb. It must have been him. He did it.
Richard Thorne whipped his head around, his eyes like a lion's, sharp and predatory. He sized me up for a long moment, then waved a hand at the black-suited man behind him.
Take him.
Are you kidding me? Kidnapping in broad daylight? Your great-grandpa's grave gets robbed, and that's somehow my problem? Let me go. This is illegal. You can't do this. No one listened. I was shoved into the back of a black SUV, sandwiched between two bodyguards built like refrigerators. Help! Somebody call the cops. The door slammed shut, and I fell silent. One of the men reached into my pocket, expertly fished out my phone, powered it off, and pocketed it. The whole sequence was terrifyingly smooth. Well, so much for that. I was screwed. The Thorne family was clearly in the middle of a massive crisis. It was almost midnight, but the living room of their lavish mansion was packed with people. Men, women, young, and old, all of them wearing expressions of pure dread. When they saw Richard Thorne dragging Carson in, they all seemed to find their anchor. Richard, where have you been? Brother, is it true? Is Grandpa's tomb really gone? Doesn't that place have security? What happened to the guards? Uncle, my dad is on his way back from Europe on the private jet. Richard Thorne raised a hand, and the room fell silent. His face was grim as he shot a meaningful glance in my direction.
The 20 guards
He said, his voice heavy.
are all dead.
I stood off to the side, my head down, wishing I could cover my ears. Knowing these kinds of family secrets was a good way to get yourself permanently silenced. Suddenly, Carson kicked me, sending me stumbling into the middle of the room.
Everyone relax. I found the culprit.
He announced.
This guy set up a stall right where I'd see him. He told me great-grandpa was in for a calamity. It's obvious. These scumbags robbed the tomb, so they could blackmail us.
The moment the words left his mouth, a thin man in glasses rushed forward and kicked me hard in the stomach.
Talk. Where did you put my grandfather's remains?
He shrieked.
Tell me or I'll kill you.
Before I could even gasp for breath, someone grabbed my hair and slapped me several times across the face. My head spun, my lips split open, and the taste of blood filled my mouth. I don't know. I wheezed. It wasn't me. I don't know you people. Carson laughed, a cruel, mocking sound. He pressed the sole of his expensive shoe into my cheek, grinding it against the floor.
Everyone in this city knows who I am. You're about to die, and you're still playing dumb.
Richard Thorne glanced at me, his expression cold as ice.
Someone take him out back. Cut him up and feed him to the dogs.
The city's richest man? He was worse than any mob boss. That was it. I'd had enough. I surged to my feet and slapped Carson so hard he fell flat on his ass. Your great-grandfather is with my master. I roared. If you touch me again, I'll have my master dump his bones in a sewer. You hear me? Carson was stunned into silence, just sitting there on the floor, holding his face. After a long moment, he finally muttered.
Shit.
Then he looked up at me, bewildered.
You're holding my great-grandfather hostage? Why didn't you just say so? What was all that acting for? Are you an idiot?
The rest of the Thorne family erupted. After a torrent of curses, they told me to name my price. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and held up 5 fingers. I want 5.
500 million. You'll get 200 million now.
Richard Thorne cut in without blinking.
You'll get the rest when we see my father's remains.
How? How much? 500 million? God, I hated myself. Why didn't I actually have the old man's body? The Thornes worked fast. I stared at the string of zeros on my banking app, my head spinning even more than when they'd been beating me. On the outside, though, I had to look cool and collected. Richard Thorne gave me a long, hard look, then turned to his son.
You go with him. Don't let him out of your sight. I want your great-grandfather's remains back. Understood.
Carson gritted his teeth and nodded fiercely.
Don't worry. I'll stick to him like glue. I'm not coming home until I find great-grandpa.
The feral, predatory look on Carson's face quickly soured the joy of my newfound $200 million fortune. I'd seen enough crime shows to know you can get DNA from bones that are centuries old. The old man had only been dead 50 years. They could definitely run a test. That meant finding some random corpse to pass off as him was out of the question. So that led to the big question. Where the hell was I going to find his great-grandfather? I decided the only place to start was the tomb itself. The Thorn Patriarch was buried deep in the Appalachian Mountains. Carson and I took a private jet, then an SUV, then an ATV. The last leg of the journey was on a damn mule. When I finally laid eyes on the magnificent, ancient-looking mausoleum, my jaw nearly hit the floor. Holy hell, the Thorns were ruthless. They had clearly kicked out the original occupant of this tomb and buried their own ancestor inside. In my line of work, we call that hijacking a place of power a spiritual land grab. It's a massive taboo. Even if you succeed, it comes at a terrible price for future generations. The eldest son of the direct line is almost always cursed with an early death. And yet, Richard and Carson Thorn were alive and well. This family was a puzzle wrapped in a mystery. 10. The tomb was hidden deep in an untouched wilderness, high on a mountain that wasn't steep but commanded a view of everything around it. It was flanked by two other ranges, like protective arms. To the left, a ridge coiled like a resting dragon, shielding it from the harsh northern winds. To the right, a range swooped down like a pouncing tiger, its open jaws seeming to swallow the spiritual energy of the surrounding landscape. This was an incredible place of power. Anyone buried here would ensure their descendants became titans of industry, or even political leaders. No wonder the Thorns went to such lengths to claim it. Except now, this perfect site was broken. A yard-wide hole had been smashed through the roof of the main chamber. A place like this has a life force, an energy that flows deep within the earth. It can't be exposed to the elements. With this hole, the tomb's power was bleeding out. In a decade or so, it would be just another grave, incapable of producing even a comfortably middle-class family, let alone a dynasty of billionaires. What a waste. Peering down through the dark opening, I could see the patriarch's sarcophagus had been forced open. The ornate, priceless wooden coffin was empty, except for one thing. A single shoe, left upside down, sole facing the sky. I sucked in a sharp breath. My mentor once told me about an ancient, shadowy death cult. When they wanted to wipe out an entire family line, they would leave an upside-down shoe at their door. The shoe symbolizes a journey, the foot that carries you from the world of the living to the world of the dead. Leaving only one meant you were trapped, not allowed to remain in this world, but also barred from the next. This wasn't just about killing the Thorns. This was about erasing their souls from existence. What kind of hatred drives someone to do that? 11. Carson saw me staring at the shoe and grew impatient.
Are you done yet? Let's go find my great-grandpa.
I straightened up and gave him a look filled with pity. We don't have to look. Soon enough, your whole family will be together again. You're all going to see him. Carson's face twisted in rage. He swung his fist at me. I shifted my weight, and his punch whistled past my ear. He stood there, teeth grinding.
You just wait.
He hissed.
I'm going to make you pay for this.
I rolled my eyes. The guy was practically a dead man walking, and he was still making threats. The tomb was massive. The walls and ceiling were constructed from a type of ancient, incredibly hard concrete. I'd read about it before. It was supposedly the same material used to build parts of the Great Wall, made from a long-lost recipe of oils, sand, rice paste, and lime. They say it's stronger than modern cement. I took out my survival knife and scraped it against the wall. Just as I expected, it barely left a scratch. Carson watched me poking at the walls and floor, his patience gone. He scoffed and grabbed a rope we'd used to rappel down, preparing to climb out. The moment he pulled, the rope snapped. 12. We were in a pit 25 feet deep. The walls were slick with the oils and the ancient concrete. A mouse would have trouble getting a grip. Without a rope, we were trapped. And Carson hadn't come alone. He'd brought a team of more than a dozen heavily armed mercenaries. When we came down, they were all standing at the edge of the hole, weapons ready, watching me like hawks.
Damn it, Abe. Where are you guys?
Carson yelled up. His cry made me look up sharply. The mercenaries at the edge of the hole were gone. The steel cables we'd used were severed. Now it wasn't just Carson who was panicking. I was too. Carson's eyes narrowed, pinning me with a dark stare.
You're a real piece of work, Croft. Kidnapping my great-grandpa wasn't enough for you? Now you're kidnapping me? What? You want to raise the price? Don't you think your greed is going to get you killed?
Before, I was genuinely afraid of the thorns. But now, who's afraid of a ghost? It was clear whoever took the body was lying in wait for the family to show up. Oh crap, they weren't going to lump me in with the thorns and take us all out, were they? Seeing the look on my face, Carson took a wary step back.
Hey, I'm warning you. You want more money, fine. But don't you dare try anything.
I ignored the idiot. Flashlight in hand, I started to examine the tomb. 13. Usually, the main burial chamber is at the heart of a tomb complex. Directly in front of the sarcophagus was a massive, sealed stone door. We couldn't get out through the roof, so our only option was to find a way through the rest of the tomb and hope there was another exit. Carson, you've been here before. Do you know how to open this door? He looked at me like I'd grown a second head.
What? Now you want to rob my great-grandpa's tomb, too?
I paused, and then it clicked. The main chamber was empty except for the sarcophagus. A family as rich as the Thorns would never bury their patriarch without lavish grave goods. They were a dynasty with countless priceless, and probably illicit, treasures. Some of those treasures were bound to be things they couldn't show the world. Were they hidden in this tomb? That would explain the heavy security. They weren't just guarding a body, they were guarding a vault. I have $200 million. Why would I care about your dusty antiques? I snapped. Are you an idiot? The ropes were cut. That means there was trouble up there. Your team was armed to the teeth. Who do you think could take them out so quietly? We need to find an exit and run. The reality of the situation finally seemed to dawn on him. His face went pale.
You killed my man.
The guy was hopeless. He still thought I was the one behind all this. Let me spell it out for you. I said, my patient's gone. I didn't take your great-grandfather. I was getting my ass kicked by you, and I blurted out the first lie I could think of to save my skin. And no, I'm not giving the $200 million back. 14. Carson didn't believe me. As I walked toward him, he scrambled backward. Eventually, he let out a yelp and started running in circles around the giant sarcophagus. We ended up in a ridiculous chase, like something out of a cartoon.
Stay away from me.
He yelled.
I already said I'd give you the money. Why are you doing this? Oh God, is it because my dad has an illegitimate son? Am I being replaced? Damn it, I'll give you $1 billion. No, $2 billion. Just go kill the other guy for me.
He was completely unhinged. This was exhausting. Thud. As we were chasing each other, something dropped from the hole above and hit the ground with a heavy, wet smack. It was Abe, the lead mercenary. Seeing him, Carson first jumped in fright. Then his face broke into a relieved grin.
Abe, what took you so long?
He demanded, walking toward the downed man.
And what the hell was that entrance? You just dropped in like a sack of potatoes. You're making me look bad.
He kept walking closer. Carson, stop. I yelled. Something was very wrong with the man on the ground. He had landed head first. A normal person would land on their feet. I'd even heard a sickening crack of a breaking neck. Abe had landed like a lawn dart and then toppled over 90 degrees to his right. But his neck remained bent at that same 90-degree angle to his body. By all rights, he should have been dead. But the body of Abe on the floor began to twitch in a series of grotesque, unnatural movements. After a moment, it propped itself up on its own neck, arching its back into a perfect, horrifying circle. Carson stared, a look of disgust on his face.
What the hell are you doing? If you're trying to show off some cool move, pick another one. That's hideous. You look like something out of a horror movie.
Carson was so arrogantly self-assured that for a second, I actually questioned my own judgment. Maybe it was some bizarre martial arts move. But just to be safe, I backed away. As I moved, I noticed something else. The main chamber was circular. I was now on the far side of the sarcophagus. From my new angle, I could see something strange on Abe's back. I took 2 more steps back to get a clearer view, and my blood ran cold. Holy hell, there was another person growing out of Abe's back. I recognized him too. He was the smallest of the mercenaries. Abe was a mountain of a man, over 6'4" in pure muscle. The other guy, nicknamed Rat, was maybe 5'5" and wiry. By now, evening was falling, and the light inside the tomb was dim. That's why we hadn't noticed Rat fused to Abe's back. I rubbed my eyes, hoping I was hallucinating. Rat's arms seemed to be merged with Abe's, only separating at the elbow. Same with the legs. A mangled third leg protruded from the back of Abe's knee. Their necks were fused into one grotesque, swollen column, like a massive tumor. And Carson was walking right toward this monster. I grabbed a protein bar from my pocket. It was as hard as a brick, and hurled it at Abe. He reflexively turned his head toward me. As he did, the face of Rat on the back of his head came face to face with Carson. They stared at each other, eye to eye. Carson looked utterly baffled. He blinked at Rat with a kind of innocent confusion.
Rat, when did you get here? I didn't see you.
Rat let out an unearthly shriek and opened a mouth filled with 4 rows of teeth, lunging at Carson. The teeth were a jagged, chaotic mess. I swear he had absorbed Abe's teeth into his own jaw. Carson was too terrified to even scream. He shuddered once, then turned and bolted. "You cowardly son of a bitch! Why are you running toward me?" I yelled. Carson was practically in tears.
It's a circle. No matter where I run, I end up at you.
There was nothing to do but run with him. "You idiot, open the damn door." He wouldn't do it. He was convinced this thing was a creation of mine, sent to scare him into opening the door so I could loot the rest of the tomb.
Huff. I'm not. Huff. Falling for it.
He panted.
Huff. Huff. That stuff is worth. Huff. Billions.
When you're trapped in an ancient tomb with a monster, what do you do if you can't outrun it? Simple. You just have to outrun your companion. Carson was a trust fund kid who spent his days drowning in champagne and luxury. His stamina was a joke compared to mine. After just a few laps, his face was ashen, and he looked like he was about to have a heart attack.
Arg.
With a final, terrified scream, Carson was tackled to the ground by the Abe creature. Of course, I couldn't let him die. He was my only ticket out of here. I grabbed a piece of the severed steel cable from the floor, lunged forward, and looped it around the creature's neck. What I forgot, however, was that Rat's face was on the back of Abe's head. Up close, the thing was even more nauseating. I shoved my last protein bar into Rat's mouth to shut him up and pulled on the cable with all my might. Just then, Carson, in a panic, kicked the creature square in the chest. The monster fell backward, right on top of me. I pushed against its weight with all my strength, the veins in my forehead bulging. "Help me, you moron." Carson hesitated. Damn it. Even now, he still suspected me. In that split second of terror, my mentor's lessons flooded back to me. This thing, I knew what it was. He told me stories of a death cult, lost for centuries, that specialized in raising the dead. They could create any kind of undead creature imaginable. Ghouls, revenants, flesh eaters, things that normally required perfect, natural conditions to form. Their greatest achievement was when one of their most brilliant disciples spent 70 years cultivating a flying, vampire-like creature of immense power. These things, these jiangshi, are formed under very specific conditions. The body has to be buried in a place of extreme yin energy, scientifically speaking, soil that's perfectly balanced, not too wet or dry, sterile enough to prevent decay. The body rots, but doesn't decompose. The weakest form is a simple shambler, like a movie zombie. Slow, afraid of light and fire. Next is a green-tinged variant. Then comes the white-haired kind, incredibly fast and strong. After that is the flying type, which can take centuries to mature. It's intelligent, impervious to most harm, and can wipe out entire towns. Beyond that lies a creature of myth, a bringer of drought and destruction, powerful enough to challenge gods. The creation of that flying horror enraged the other mystical orders. Masters from every tradition united to annihilate the death cult. They vanished from history hundreds of years ago. And this thing, this fusion of Abe and Rat, was their signature creation, a corpse parasite, a living weapon made by fusing the dead. 19. It's like breeding insects for combat. They throw bodies into a pit and let them fight, merge, and consume each other. The most terrifying part? I had seen Abe and Rat alive and well just a few hours ago. The 20 guards had been living in a small building a mile from the tomb. They'd all died overnight. Abe and Rat had been sent to investigate. They came back as this. This corpse parasite was a low-level creation, so it should still have the weaknesses of a basic shambler. It feared light, fire, and anything with strong life force. Like blood from the tongue, I bit down hard, ignoring the pain, and spat a mouthful of blood directly at Rat's face. He shrieked as if scalded by acid and scrambled back, hissing. Carson's jaw dropped.
Holy crap, dude, are you LARPing Tomb Raider right now?
Raider this. Open the damn door. He still hesitated. Just then, more bodies began to drop from the hole above. Twisted, nightmarish things. One had 2 heads and 3 arms. Another had no head at all, just a torso bristling with limbs. One was just a pile of a dozen heads fused to a body with no arms or legs. My stomach churned. I swallowed hard to keep from vomiting. The Abe-Rat monster was practically normal compared to these abominations. That finally broke Carson's paralysis. He scrambled over to the sarcophagus, pressed a sequence of stones on the floor, and the massive stone door began to grind open. It closed again slowly. The creature made of limbs got caught in the door, which sheared off a row of its hands with a sickening crunch. Once we were safe on the other side, Carson collapsed to the floor and started dry heaving.
Oh God, that's so disgusting. Wretch.
20. After I explained about the death cult and the crime of hijacking the tomb, Carson fell silent. After a long time, he spoke, his voice hoarse.
So you're saying, my family stole someone else's ancestral tomb?
He whispered.
And if I was supposed to die young, why didn't I?
That was the question nagging me, too. I thought for a moment, and then another of my mentor's lessons came to mind. I clicked on my flashlight, aimed it at my own face from below, like a ghost story, and told Carson to look into my eyes. Look closely. Can you see your own reflection in my pupils? Carson leaned in reluctantly.
This is weird, man. 2 guys staring into each other's eyes. It's creepy.
I slapped him on the back of the head. Get serious. Look again. The reflection in my pupils. Is it you? Or is it someone else? Carson's eyes widened.
What do you mean?
In the world of the occult, there's a dark art known as life-stealing. It's a way to steal another person's lifespan. Because it defies the natural order, there's always a price. You never get the full amount. If the victim had 70 years left, you might only get half, or even just a few months if the ritual is botched. To get the full lifespan, you need a deep, intrinsic connection with the victim. You'd have to raise them from childhood together, eating, sleeping, playing side by side. You'd need regular blood transfusions. For a perfect transfer, you might even need to swap an organ. Like a heart, the human pupil is a powerful, spiritual mirror. It can reflect things beyond the physical world. If Carson's life was stolen from someone else, what I would see in his reflection would be the ghost of the person he stole it from. When I finished explaining, Carson's face was streaked with tears. He turned his head away, unable to meet my gaze.
No, it can't be.
He choked out.
I know I'm a jerk. I race cars, I get into fights, I act like an entitled ass. But I'm not evil. I would never do that. He was my best friend. My brother.
He broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. I grabbed his face and forced him to look at me, prying one of his eyes open with my thumb. Crying? You have the nerve to cry after you stole his life? Now look and tell me what you see. Forced to look, Carson's eyes focused on his reflection in my own. He froze. The color drained from his face, and he began to tremble violently. His lips moved for a long time before he finally whispered a single name.
Leo.
Leo Hayes was the son of one of the Thorns' housekeepers and Carson's best friend. They were the same age and had known each other since they were infants. For the first 10 years of his life, Carson was convinced they were twins. Then, when they were 16, Leo died. The The Thorne family told Carson that both he and Leo had been born with a rare congenital heart defect and needed transplants. His surgery was a success. Leo's had failed.
Monsters.
Carson whispered.
They're absolute monsters.
If I had to guess, I said grimly. Leo was a descendant of the family that originally built this tomb. Leo must have been brought here to pay respects, and Carson probably came with him. Both boys would have been influenced by the tomb's energy, which would increase the chances of the life-stealing ritual succeeding. The Thornes stole this family's ancestral power, condemning them to poverty. But that wasn't enough. They brought the descendants into their home as servants, keeping them under their thumb. They raised their enemy's child as a living sacrifice for their own son. The cruelty, the sheer, calculated evil of it was breathtaking. No wonder this death cult wanted to wipe them off the face of the earth. They were probably hired by Leo's family, a debt like that could only be paid in blood. Carson wiped his eyes fiercely.
I know I deserve to die, but I don't want to. What do I do?
I patted him down. You got your phone on you? Your family's about to be wiped out anyway. Transfer all your money to me. I'll use it for charity, to atone for your family's sins. And hey, if you somehow survive this, come find me. I'll take care of you. Carson looked at me, his eyes full of a strange new emotion.
Julian, I'm sorry I dragged you into this. You're actually a decent guy. Okay, I'll transfer it now.
I held my breath, my heart pounding. Carson felt his pockets for a moment, then gave me an awkward smile.
I think I dropped my phone back in the main chamber. So maybe we could.
Get lost. Money's no good if you're not alive to spend it. The underground complex was a massive labyrinth of tunnels. Carson, however, knew it like the back of his hand. He gave me a running commentary as we walked.
That chamber is for jewelry. That one's for antique porcelain. Over there is bronze artifacts, and that one's full of gems. Oh, and this one's boring. Just a room full of gold bars.
God, I wanted to strangle him.
Hey, you're going the wrong way.
Carson said, pulling me back. I silently tried to memorize the layout, burning the map into my brain. If I ever have kids, I'm leaving them one hell of a treasure map. Thump, 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 thump. Just as we were about to turn a corner, a loud, rhythmic banging started from one of the chambers. The color drained from Carson's face. He grabbed my arm and started sprinting down the tunnel. I only had time for a quick glance back. A strip of grayish, ragged cloth was poking out from under the stone door. What was that? Carson ran without looking back, holding his breath.
Run. That room is full of Egyptian mummies.
You got to be kidding me. It was the middle of the night, deep in an ancient tomb in the Appalachians, and we were being chased by a pack of mummies. Who would ever believe this? Just as my lungs were about to burst, we finally neared an exit. Carson explained it was a secret escape route built for the family. It opened up at the bottom of a lake. The chamber even had scuba gear waiting for us. We were safe. I figured even a death cult wouldn't think to look for an escape hatch underwater. Money really does solve everything. The headlamp on the scuba gear was so bright that when I turned it on, I thought the sun had risen. The underwater plants and fish were crystal clear. Carson let out a stream of bubbles, visibly relieved. The only problem was the water. It was freezing. Even in the middle of summer, it was so icy it felt like a polar plunge. The lake was deep, and just as our oxygen tanks were getting low, I could finally see the surface. But there was something floating up there, a lot of somethings. Maybe the air pressure was dropping before a storm, forcing the fish to the surface. I strained my eyes, looking up, and then I wished I could claw them out. There were 24 bodies standing upright in the water, not floating like normal corpses. They were standing perfectly still just below the surface. They were all powerfully built men, wearing black tactical shirts that showed off their bulging muscles. Their faces were clear, their skin bloated and pale from the water.
Blub, 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 blub.
Carson let out a frantic stream of bubbles and immediately started swimming back down. I understood his silent scream. These were the 20 dead guards. 25. Carson's movement was like a signal. All at once, the bodies started to move. They swam without moving their arms or legs, propelling themselves through the water faster than fish with just a slight kick. Damn it, They'd been turned into drowned dead. They were a type of water ghoul, but different from a simple ghost. They were more like aquatic zombies, and they were exponentially stronger in the water than on land. Over time, they even grow slippery scales. They're almost impossible to fight in their element. But all water spirits, ghouls, ghosts, whatever, have one thing in common. They fear iron. I reached for the dagger in my belt, and my fingers brushed against something else. Before we entered the tomb, I'd wrapped a thin iron chain around my waist, just in case. At that moment, the lead drowned dead opened its mouth and lunged at me. I twisted out of the way, whipped the iron chain around its neck, and it froze instantly, paralyzed. Holding the first one like a shield, I swam toward the next. Meanwhile, Carson was engaged in a desperate, flailing battle with another one. They tumbled through the water, a chaotic mess of limbs. He was so busy fighting, he had to keep stopping to spit out bubbles. I swam toward him, my left hand holding a leash of paralyzed ghouls, my right hand holding my dagger. Just as one of the drowned dead was about to bite Carson's face, I plunged the blade into its chest. 26. By the time Carson and I crawled onto the shore, we were too exhausted to even lift a finger.
Huff, huff, huff.
Carson gasped like a dying bull.
I'm done. I can't do this anymore. If another zombie or ghost shows up, just let them kill me. It's what I owe Leo.
I turned to say something, but a cold, clear voice cut through the air.
Fine.
A tall, slender figure stepped out from behind a tree. He had pale skin and sharp, handsome features. Carson shot upright.
Leo.
The man's eyes were like chips of ice.
Shut up. You don't have the right to say my brother's name.
This was Victor Hayes, Leo's older brother. 10 years ago, he discovered the truth about Leo's death and was forced to flee when the Thorns tried to kill him. By some twist of fate, he found the last practitioners of the death cult and became their student. He had spent a decade honing his dark craft for one single purpose: revenge. I scrambled to my feet. This revenge is righteous. I declared, you should absolutely get it. In fact, you should make it hurt. I'm just a bystander. I don't know anything. I'll just get out of your way and let you get to it. A pale, white-haired horror stepped out from the trees, blocking my path.
Anyone who knows about this place
Victor said calmly.
has to die.
27. Figures. The death cult wasn't exactly known for its reasonable nature. My mentor once told me their recruitment standards were insanely strict. You had to be born at a precise, astrologically dark time, under a specific set of stars. And you had to carry a deep, burning desire for revenge. It was the only way to cultivate the necessary aura of malice to control the dead. The training itself was inhuman, sleeping in coffins, being buried alive. You either became incredibly powerful or went completely insane. I pulled out my dagger and shoved it into Carson's hand. Don't say I never did anything for you, buddy. The Thorns beat me up, but they also gave me $200 million. Now, it was every man for himself. After handing him the weapon, I sprinted toward the forest. The white-haired ghoul was right behind me, a silent, relentless predator. Victor didn't follow. To him, a nobody like me was barely worth the effort. Sending one of his pets was more than enough. Damn it, he was probably right. I ran, gasping for breath, my legs screaming in protest. Hiss! Hisses! We were far from the tomb now, down in the valley. My headlamp cut a frantic beam through the pitch-black woods, making me a perfect target. I switched it off. In old horror movies, zombies hunt by smell. In reality, they hunt by sensing life force, the warmth of the living. This forest was full of other animals, all radiating their own life force. I held my breath, then remembered the piece of the drowned dead I'd taken. It was a piece of its throat bone where most of its dark energy was concentrated. I pulled it from my pack, hung it around my neck, and kept running, moving as quietly as I could. Just as I'd hoped, the white-haired ghoul seemed to lose my trail. As I ran, I heard a deep, guttural roar in the distance. A bear! Holy crap! There were bears out here. In a strange twist, the ghoul I was running from had, now, become my protector, scaring away any other predators. My legs were numb. Every muscle in my body felt like it had been run over by a truck. I was running on pure adrenaline and the will to survive. A sliver of gray appeared on the eastern horizon. Dawn was coming. Thwomp, 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 thwomp. The sound of helicopter rotors echoed through the sky. A whole squadron of them flew over my head. I dove into a thicket of bushes, not daring to move until they passed. It looked like the thorns had sent in the cavalry. Good. Let them fight. Let them tear each other apart until nothing was left. I dragged myself westward. In the distance, I saw a thin curl of smoke rising from the trees. A town. Civilization. Finally. I've been back in civilization for a week, laying low in Austin. The biggest news story in the country was the bizarre, tragic downfall of the Thorn dynasty. Every few days, another member of the family turned up dead under gruesome, inexplicable circumstances. I'd lost all contact with Carson. I had no idea if he was alive or dead, and I wasn't about to go looking for him. The thorns had sown the wind, and now they were reaping the whirlwind. I felt no guilt about keeping the $200 million. I knew that once Victor was done with the thorns, he'd come looking for me, so I packed my bags and hit the road again. I had no destination in mind, just away. This time, I ended up in a new city on a new street corner. I set up my folding table and shook the small bell in my hand. Clairvoyant eye sees all. Iron tongue speaks truth. I chanted, my voice low. Free readings. No truth, no charge. A young man dripping in gold chains, holding a tiny poodle, stopped and looked at me with a mocking expression.
Whoa, check this guy out. Tarot, palmistry, astrology, the whole 9 yards? You're a master of everything, huh?
He smirked.
You've got a big mouth. Hey, master,
He said, gesturing with the dog.
if you're so good, how about you read my dog?
I glanced up at the poodle, and my casual demeanor vanished. My blood ran cold. This was no ordinary dog. It was a shadow hound, a creature of pure energy. I looked the man dead in the eye. That dog of yours, I said, my voice barely a whisper. It wants to devour you.